just did.
I have a stylist in the house. So that's
Great.
Well,
It's lovely.
Okay, so I'm just going to dive into it because there's just so much to talk about. First, before I talk to you about how you came to this project, I just want to talk about Connie Converse because I didn't know her story at all before I saw this film. And I actually did some research because it was just so fascinated me that you guys dedicated this film to her. So I just wanted to learn, I was curious about how her story got into this story and how, her story might have inspired the film. Let's start with Michal.
Connie Converse, she's singer-songwriter who decided to one day to pack all her belongings to her car. It was red Volkswagen Beetle, and she just drove away. And she decided to do it because she couldn't plug into society, and she was society. Yeah, she was misfit, and it was one of our inspirations. The woman, on the road.
Yeah.
And she was, her story is really mysterious. Her disappearance is really mysterious, and nobody knows what happened to her.
Yeah.
And also, we sorry, where's a photograph? Let me finish. We were really fascinated by this story that one day you can lose everything, and you just drive.
Yeah.
And you are looking, you are looking for yourself. It's in my opinion, it's the best way for self-discovery for the person to just have this lonely journey.
And what about you, Lena?
Yeah, that a lonely journey is a theme for not only all of us personally in some way, and I guess that was the way we all found each other in this project, or this project found us, but also to Sara, who is just to sort of, we needed someone to take us on that journey that is something that we know so well, or whether you can even know that so well. It's a beautiful thing that everyone that's here today and many other people involved in this movie had a very hard time figuring out how to fit in within a society. What is it anyway? We're humans and we're supposed to belong, and we're supposed to be cool and liked, and Connie made music that she so much wanted people to hear here in New York, which is so beautiful that we're ending up bringing her back here. No one listened, and no one cared, and on top of that she really lacked social skills, and which wasn't helping with she was just a misfit. She was, some of the most incredible artists of all time had been that way, and sometimes there's an element of luck that helps you break through or not, and she didn't have it. And so being tired of it all, she did pack her stuff in a Volkswagen Beetle and disappeared, and was never heard from since. And she could be alive, you guys.
Yeah.
She'd be pretty old. She'd be 96, I think. But the premiere is tonight, and we are
Save her a seat. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a seat saved for her. We do.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's wonderful.
We should get a Connie Converse thing on it. That's a good idea.
It's strange to make light of it's probably a tragedy for her family, but just the idea that we don't know. It's like someone's lost at sea. People always expect them somehow to return, and hopefully one way or another she'll be there tonight.
Yeah.
But adding to the tragedy, we spoke to some people that had been involved, that a man who takes care of her legacy. There's people that known her, and everybody feels really positive about it in some way. And that's also what we really wanted to convey in this film. It's not a sad story. I hope it's a story of hope, and that's sort of what a lot of people thought about Connie. It's like she never fit in, and the letters that she had left to people when she was leaving was like, I can't do this, please let me be, to the point of her family hiring a detective to find her. And after he looked through her writings, listened to her songs, which all talked about how she can't belong, he went back to the family and said, let's not look for her, she does not want that.
Wow, that's great. And John, you kind of said already a little bit about Connie, but I don't know, do you have anything to add about her?
I was talking to old bandmates back in Austin, Texas yesterday, and I know that one of our friends, David.
Whoa, David, her?
Huh?
Again, we lost you for a moment. One of our friends.
I can't remember if it was David Jewell. It's someone that I knew back in Austin, that we knew back in Austin, and that he helped really revive her career, apparently, which is really cool. But I didn't know a great deal about her. I've certainly heard of her. I didn't really listen to much of her music until Lena pointed me toward it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And it's important that we add that she is just, like you said at the beginning, we dedicate the movie to her. The film isn't about her. It's not a biography. We did have a moment of thinking of making a Connie Converse biography that would, be set in the 60s and in New York and be a very different movie.
Right.
But then when we were researching her, we thought that what's much more interesting than a verbatim biopic is that secret story she had on her own, alone, which is where we start our movie. It starts with Sara being kicked out and off she goes. So everything happens within our movie, which is somewhat confusing, I feel, for a lot of interviewers that talk to us. Is that it's not her story. She just starts it off. And then the inspirations to that are very different.
Yeah, and I really, go ahead.
Also, we use a lot of her music in the movie, and our composer Tony Kirożynek used her vocal for some of composed music as well. So there's her spirit in this music and in the movie.
Yeah, that's great. And actually, I'm really glad that you went the route of just kind of starting out, with touching on her story, but then going your own way. And I do so much want to hear about how you all came together, but I also want to dissect a lot too. And I know we only have a certain amount of time. So maybe as we go, you can add like, oh, this is why I got into the project, or this is how I met, so-and-so. But so Paris, Texas, obviously is, some kind of inspiration. Also Wim Wenders being a producer, I'm sure, he inspired some of the choices of the film. But I love Paris, Texas so much, and I couldn't help thinking that Travis's journey, in the beginning of the film, is Paris, Texas. He's been in the desert for a while. Like he's been having his roving man experience, and then we see Sara at the start of it, why she gets into this journey. And I love kind of how that parallels, and also just the music, Ry Cooder, I think that's how you say his name, his music streaming throughout the film. And I was kind of curious, the parallels and what you were trying to do with, this story, but also kind of connecting it with Paris, Texas, because I saw a lot of parallels. Michal, did you want to talk about, start with that?
Yeah, actually, we weren't that inspired by Paris, Texas, but I think it's always in our minds because it's one of the most famous and the best, I think, road movies ever made. What was the most important for me and Lena when we first time met, was $1 Million Hotel, the movie made by Wim Wenders. We were fascinated by Eloise, the main character there, and it was a reference for Sara, that she's kind of weird and also misfit,
in a dress.
Yeah.
We did even look for that dress. Michal and I watched $1 Million Hotel together right before just deciding we need to make a film. But Wim where it wasn't the furthest dream that would possibly ever be a part of it. He was a part of it by inspiring us to make it. So his spirit, just like Connie's, was in it so much.
Yeah.
Then there was John, who was also our massive dream to have around, mine for a long time prior to shooting this movie, because I care about him very much as an artist and as a person who I know, and I love talking about you, John, in third person when you're around. It's so not awkward. So having John with us was equally important for us. And when I spoke with Michal, I remember being in Poland, and I was talking about the fact that because just like Sara, I had also been broken up with my ex-boyfriend and sort of kicked out and sort of homeless in LA right before we started shooting this movie. So that's the beginning of the story. But I remember telling you, Michal, like, oh God, I put all my bags from like all my belongings, I put in like somebody's garage, and I should have asked John to do it, my friend John, because it would be safer there. And I think somehow Michal saw John Hawkes as a text message I was sending, and he was like, wait, John Hawkes? I was like, yeah, my friend John. And Michal goes, oh my God, Me and You and Everyone We Know is the best movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, I love that movie.
And then I was like, you should meet John. And then the fact that we had gotten to a place where he's here with us, that's insane also. and then Wim, holy macaroni, we had the most incredible run with, and I do feel like Connie's spirit is with us, because I don't know, miracles had been happening since the beginning of shooting this. We shot it with $10,000 that I had asked people to give me. That's what we started. Yeah. Then we got a little more, and then a little more, but not so much more in the end. And some of our idols had been joining along the way. Besides John and Wim, there's also Chris Hanley, who produced movies that made us who we are. He made, Buffalo 66 and American Psycho and Bully and
Bridget Suicides,
Spring Breakers.
Yeah.
So he also said, "Yeah, I'll be in your film."
Yes.
And then Orion Williams joined us, who produced Control, which is a movie that inspired me a lot because my mom's a post-punk singer, so that was really important. And having all these people involved, I told me, I was like,
some like amazing energy created at the beginning, and it lasts till today. And it was like, for me, it's like making movie with my idols, like John, Wim Wenders. Like, you kind of like dreams come true. It's like amazing.
And how we approached Vim was when the movie was already shot, and I was like, we're really on some happy run. Let's show it to Wim. Maybe he will give us some notes on how to edit it better. Let's try to get through to him. And I went on Facebook and wrote, does anybody have Wim Wenders' email?
That's great.
And everybody went, LOL, great, Lena. Yeah. And then turns out that our makeup and hair and makeup artist, Barbara, did 3 of his films. And she's like,
wow. Yeah.
So crazy. We didn't know that when we hired.
Yeah, that's great.
She then passed on his email. I sent him the movie, and I just said that Wim, I assume anyone attempting to touch the road movie genre should run their attempts by you, sir. So if you may give this a watch, it would mean a lot. And he responded, he was like, I don't own the road movie genre. I owe it everything. Therefore, I must watch it. That guy. So amazing. And then he did. And then he responded back, and that email he said, okay, so what do we do next? Immediately putting himself in we place.
That's great. Oh, I love that. And John, did you want to add anything about kind of how you came to this project? And I
came reluctantly, actually. It was COVID, and I wasn't so interested in working, and I'd taken a long time off due to my mother passed away in 2019 after being ill, and she was elderly. No, it was a good thing, but I'd taken time off that year, was getting ready to get back to work, and then COVID came, and then I just thought, I've hustled for 40 years, I'm just going to lay low.
Yeah.
And they approached me about the film, and I said, you know, and they even had kind of written some scripts and scenes that didn't end up really being what the film was, but they were, you know, throwing things at me kindly, and I was, you know, unkindly saying no, I don't think so. And then I wanted to help because I had just met Michal and thought he was interesting, and I love Lena as a friend for years, so I said, can I give you music? Would you be interested? And they said, sure. So it was COVID. I would go over to where they were staying and sit out on the porch and play songs for them every few nights. And it was great because I hadn't played music for people. It's like, these were gigs for me, basically, to go play 3 songs. Here's an audience finally and someone I can play music for. And they were recording them. And eventually they found a couple that they liked and one they really liked that really features in the film. Mm-hmm. And I said, great, there's the songs, and Lena is persuasive and kept saying, you know, you should be in this. It's really good, and please. And I felt horrible. I don't like Lena.
I didn't say please.
You never said please. And
not my style.
Sorry about that. I'm misrepresenting you. And what ended up really tipping the balance was that they sent me a couple of minutes of what they'd been shooting out in the desert. And I said, well, now I'm screwed. I got to be in this. This looks really good. And we figured out a way to shoot it safely as we possibly could. And kind of wrote around that idea, I guess. And the scene was improvised that we did. I didn't.
Oh, wow.
Or we had ideas of where we wanted
to
be, and we knew that the song would happen in kind of the third scene at some point. And yeah, Michal and Lena and I had spent a good deal of time trying to flesh out our stories because there was no scripts that I saw. And so I, you know, kind of coming from zero, and we all kind of built it up together, and I filled in details on my own like an actor does. And we went to it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And so one of my favorite scenes, well, first of all, I love how you guys use the camera to tell this story, and the certain things that aren't there and are there and that you hold on. And I think my favorite bit is when Sarah's just stolen the car and she's like so scared, but you just see the side of her face the whole time. And she's like, it's like, you go from like terror to exhilaration to like, oh my God, I got away with this. And you don't even have to say anything, you know, it's all in your face. So Michal, could you talk about that scene, and maybe all of you, like, I don't know, put your opinion on it? So yeah,
the idea of this scene was to shoot this as simple as possible, because we saw a lot of scenes when somebody is stealing a car, and there were like hundreds of cuts, you know, like this wheelchair, and you know, and I mean,
even a wheelchair, yeah.
Sorry, and you know, I wanted to be close as much as possible to Sara's emotions during this action. So that's why camera is fixed, and we can be very close to her and follow her. Otherwise, it would be like it would be action movie actually, because it's, you know, the scene for action. So yeah, I'm really happy that it works.
Yes, definitely. Lena?
Yeah, it was we weren't sure. We had a lot. That's a very long take actually, and people want action and cuts, and I'm not even going to say how long, because it doesn't feel that long because a lot's going on. But this is just camera right here for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that.
I think also that very important in this scene is music. The song by Robbie Basho. And I think this song also helps a lot, because she's singing a car with a song which is being played. You know,
Gregory left. The song is not a sound song. That's
sure.
Gregory's song, because the car is on and the song is playing when she steals it. So it's playing as she's driving, and so it's sort of still his song. That so again, the presence of Gregory Milloy is really.
Yeah, and also there is his coffee.
That the cup of his coffee.
Yes, they're drinking it. Yeah. Just like,
which is really which is really funny because John luckily doesn't think we're complete creeps and stalkers, but we didn't know all up until the end whether he will do this film or not. We shot different endings for When Sarah Never Finds Gregory. Up until the last day, I didn't know if I will, because we didn't know if we will end up doing this with John for many reasons, including COVID and stuff. And so, though, while creating this Gregory Milloy's car, I went into John's car and I made notes of everything that's in his car. And we put that in Gregory Milloy's car, so I could really feel him. And one of the things that John has in his car, he has a cup of coffee with milk that I always drink before he gets to it. He's real mad at me for it always. And so me drinking that coffee really felt like I'm drinking your coffee, John. So it did feel, it was real. A lot of real things were happening in there.
And that's the first time I wasn't there to complain about you drinking my coffee.
Finally.
Yeah. And I was also going to say, I love how, obviously we're talking a lot about music with the film, but I love the whole thing with Mimi, like the CD, and I guess I don't want to spoil it, but the reveal at the end, and just how this relationship, when Sarah puts on like the sweatshirt and, it's suddenly becoming more of an intimate relationship. And I don't know if you all could, touch on that, like that experience. So
I will throw it at you that John has not seen the film yet, because we're keeping him away.
Oh my goodness. Well,
but don't worry, he knows that I wear that shirt. I find him wearing the hoodie, so I must have put it on.
Okay.
But I would love you to say, that's why maybe he's not responding to that question.
Okay. Yeah. And well, I guess, John, I know that you wrote songs specifically for this film, right?
No.
No? Okay.
No, I was just
really?
I was just bringing songs to them. I loved songs. I mean, like I said, they were little gigs for me, so I'd play.
That's right.
Occasionally that we couldn't possibly use, or I was just running out of material. But no, I would think every few days, what else do I have? What else do I have? And I would go play them these songs at night on the porch. As soon as people would stop banging on the pans at 6 o'clock for COVID, I would sing songs or whatever. Do you remember all that?
That's actually really beautiful. I don't know if you realize that where you are, or whoever is watching this, in Los Angeles, California, where we were during COVID, people were showing support for the doctors and all this stuff. I think that's what it was about, right?
All of the workers, I guess, and frontline workers.
Yeah, and at 6 p.m. we lived in this beautiful canyon, and we had on a mountain, and that's a canyon sort of all around with houses all around. So when we sat on the porch listening to our own private John Hawkes show at 6 p.m. each day, everyone on that canyon would go out on the porch and they would bang on the pots and pans and scream and whistle and go, ah! Which was sort of like everyone applauding John, which was never thing.
That's great. And also I mean, obviously loneliness is a huge theme in this, and I think Sarah mentions there's like all these degrees of loneliness, and you get in these conversations that are really interesting, like when I'm sorry, the guy that you're in the car with in the beginning,
Chris Conley.
yeah, who's like, I could be in solitary or solitary.
That's Brian McGuire.
Oh, okay, yeah. So everybody's kind of touching on loneliness, and it's so fascinating because this is during a time where a lot of people have been lonely, and I almost feel like Sarah's character embraces the loneliness that she was having difficulty in the beginning. So I don't know if each of you could kind of touch on that, like what the degrees of loneliness mean to you.
Michal?
Yeah, for me, actually, as Gregory Milloy, I like being alone, because also road movie genre is very close to me, because I spent a lot of years driving motorcycle around the world, around the wildest places like Borneo, Brazil, and so on, and South America. And I was alone, and for me, it's like the purest way for like self-discovery. So I really recommend to anybody to spend some time alone to discover yourself and discover your limits also. Because if you are with somebody driving on the motorbike, somebody will say, we shouldn't go there. It's night. We shouldn't sleep in the hammock in the jungle, you know. And if you are alone, you have no limits. And for me, it's like very important thing to also touch this level, like total aloneness level. Very important for every human, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Did Lena or John, or Lena?
I'm throwing the ball to John.
Okay.
I've always sought solitude from the time I was a little boy, and I grew up in the country in the Midwest where there wasn't a lot of people, so it was easy to find. I continued seeking solitude throughout my adult life. As a young adult, I hitchhiked thousands of miles and across state to state, and you're very alone in a lot of those moments. It does give you a lot of time to think, and that's good. The interesting thing about COVID was that suddenly being alone was no longer a choice, and so a lot of the joy of being alone went away a little bit for me, because there weren't people to see. I live alone, and I always joke that it's just me and my brain over here, and it's really not a very good combination all the time. And so, yeah, that's been an interesting thing to be able to get back out amongst people. Is really wonderful, because being alone is great, but we're social beings, we humans. So we do need each other, and it's been good to find that again in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of the big topic of this film. I think it's the probably impossible to answer question, which is alone, and then the need for people, the social creatures that we are, and why. And it's something that was also dear to me, or something that I had to face for a lot of my life. I was alone since I was 16. I lived alone and outside of Poland, where I was born, and at times completely alone, where people without having someone to check in with, as in where I am. And that created an interesting thing. It's interesting because what John said is that suddenly, when alone, the being alone is not a choice, then you don't want it anymore. And because I was alone, I feel like I've always wanted to find like people and family and place to call home, and place that I can belong in, and crew to be around. Or maybe even that's why I became an actress, so people can see me and like me, so I can feel not alone. That's so crazy, but it's that far. And I feel like that's why the idea of fame is so strong as well, because suddenly a human feels so not alone. Like that's the opposite of being alone, even though some very famous people are the most alone inside, which is that interesting contrast of it. And I think shooting this movie was, at least for me, beautiful, because I could really face everything that I guess I was trying to run away from, which added some peace into the whole thing. And I realized that we're just trying to figure it out as humans, and we're going to need people, and we're going to need applause for some reasons, and maybe sometimes, but then sometimes we'll need a solitude, and then one day we'll die, and whatever that will take us. And
Right.
Yeah, and we all have this massive argument within ourselves about the wanting to be alone and the wanting to be loved and seen. The idea of being seen is also very interesting, and it's very much talked about in our film, as with Chris Hanley, who lives in an invisible house to hide from.
Yeah, that house is awesome, by the way. I mean, that's something, well, we actually have to tie things up, which is unfortunate, but I really appreciate you all taking the time to talk to me, and I love this film. I'm just going to champion it all the way, because you all are amazing, and this film is so unique. So thank you.
I love you're just really a wonderful interviewer, and I love what you saw in the film. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really nice conversation, Rebecca. Thanks for this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, you have a great, tonight is the premiere, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay. Well, I wish I could be in New York to see it, but I was fortunate to, watch it from Chicago. So yeah. So thank you. Okay.